Ambassador Jake Morrison adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform one last time as he walked through the massive corridors of the Galactic Council Station. The walls stretched impossibly high above him, designed to accommodate the towering hegemony members who built this place. Crystal formations jutted from the ceiling, glowing with the soft blue light that the Nexari preferred. The air carried the metallic tang that kept the silicon-based Vorthak comfortable. Everything about this place reminded visitors that they were guests in someone else's domain. Jake had walked these halls for 3 years now, representing humanity in the greatest diplomatic gathering the galaxy had ever seen. 12 major species, 47 minor ones, all brought together under the banner of peaceful cooperation and mutual advancement. At least that was what the promotional materials claimed. Jake had learned the reality was far more complicated. The council chamber buzzed with activity as representatives from across the galaxy took their assigned seats. The Zealothi delegation clicked and whistled among themselves, their insect-like forms moving with precise coordination. The massive Craven ambassador lowered himself onto a reinforced platform, his rocky exterior scraping against the metal. Near the front, the ethereal Nexari floated in their containment suits, their crystalline bodies catching and reflecting the chamber's light. Humanity sat in the back section, as always. The newest members of the council were given the least prestigious positions. Jake didn't mind anymore. The view from the back was actually quite useful. He could see everyone, watch how they interacted, notice the subtle power plays and alliances that shaped galactic politics. Council leader Thizizka of the hegemony called the session to order. Her serpentine form coiled around the central podium, her scales shifting from green to blue to indicate her official capacity. The hegemony had led the council for over 2,000 years, and Thizizka carried herself with the authority of someone who had never questioned her right to command. "We begin today's session with quarterly reports from our member species," she announced, her voice carrying easily through the chamber's acoustics. "The Zealothi Collective will present first." The Zealothi representative scuttled forward, his forearms working in unison as he activated a holographic display. Charts and graphs filled the air above the council floor, showing mining operations across 17 star systems. And the numbers were impressive by any standard, but Jake noticed something the others probably missed. The Zealothi were working harder than ever but showing smaller profits. Someone else was taking a larger cut. "The collective report successful. Expansion of our mining operations in the Outer Rim territories," the Zealothi delegate announced. "We have extracted 47% more rare minerals than the previous quarter, with projected increases continuing for the next fiscal cycle." Polite acknowledgement rippled through the chamber. The Vorthak delegation next presented their trade route efficiency reports. The silicon-based species had turned commerce into an art form, their ships carrying goods between worlds with mechanical precision. Again, Jake noticed the pattern. Higher volumes, lower margins. The Vorthak were working harder, but earning less. Species after species presented their reports. The Craven spoke of their construction projects, building infrastructure across dozens of worlds. The Nexari shared their latest technological breakthroughs, careful to limit their revelations to improvements that wouldn't upset the established order. The pattern held consistent throughout. Everyone was contributing more, but the benefits seemed to flow upward to a select few. Finally, Thizizka's gaze settled on the human section. "The Terran Federation will now present their quarterly report." Jake stood slowly, gathering the datapad that contained humanity's prepared presentation. 3 years of careful diplomacy had taught him to read the room, to understand the subtle currents of power that governed galactic politics. Today felt different, though. Today felt like an ending. He walked to the center of the chamber, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Representatives from dozens of species watched him approach the podium. Many had grown accustomed to humanity's earnest presentations, their eagerness to prove themselves worthy of inclusion in galactic society. Some probably expected another display of human innovation, another attempt to demonstrate their value to the council. Jake reached the podium and looked out at the assembled delegates. He could see Dr. Lisa Grant in the human section, her xenobiology research having earned grudging respect from several species. Captain Ryan Foster sat beside her, his military bearing a reminder that humans were not entirely naive about galactic realities. The rest of the human delegation watched him with expressions of curious anticipation. "Honored representatives," Jake began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics, "I stand before you today not to present a quarterly report, but to deliver a message from the Terran Federation." A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. This was not the usual format. Thizizka's scales shifted to a darker shade of blue, indicating her displeasure at the deviation from protocol. Jake continued without acknowledging the disturbance. "The Terran Federation has carefully considered our position within the Galactic Council. We have evaluated our contributions, our benefits, and our future prospects as members of this organization." He paused, letting his words settle over the chamber. The silence stretched longer than was comfortable, broken only by the soft hum of the station's life support systems. "After thorough deliberation, the Terran Federation has reached a decision. We formally withdraw from all diplomatic engagements with the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We thank you for your time and wish you well in your future endeavors." The chamber erupted. Representatives from a dozen species began speaking at once, their voices creating a cacophony of confusion and concern. The Zealothi delegation clicked frantically among themselves. The Vorthak representative's mechanical voice rose above the noise, demanding clarification. Even the normally composed Nexari seemed agitated, their crystalline forms flickering with rapid color changes. Thizizka's scales had shifted to an angry red. Her voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "Ambassador Morrison, you cannot simply withdraw from the Council without explanation. There are protocols, procedures, obligations that must be considered." Jake smiled politely, the same diplomatic smile he had worn for 3 years of careful negotiations. "With respect, Council Leader, humanity has fulfilled all of our obligations under the original membership agreement. We have no outstanding debts or commitments that require our continued participation. But why?" The question came from the Craven delegate, his rock-like features showing genuine confusion. "Humanity has benefited greatly from Council membership. Your technological advancement, your trade relationships, your protection from hostile forces. Why would you abandon all of this?" Jake's smile never wavered. "We have indeed learned a great deal from our time here, more than you might realize. We are grateful for the education." He turned and walked back toward the human section, where his delegation was already gathering their belongings. The movement was too coordinated to be spontaneous. This had been planned, prepared for, rehearsed. The humans moved with the efficiency of people who knew exactly what they were doing. Dr. Grant approached the Nexari delegation, where she had been collaborating on quantum crystallization research. "I'm sorry to cut our work short," she told her alien colleagues. "The research files are complete. You'll find everything you need to continue without us." The Nexari scientists' form flickered with confusion. "But Lisa, we were making such progress. The applications of your insights could revolutionize energy storage across the galaxy." "I know," Grant replied. "You'll do fine without us." "Better than fine, actually. Good luck with your endeavors." Captain Foster was having a similar conversation with the military liaisons from various species. His tone was professional even. Friendly, but there was something final about his manner that made it clear this was not a negotiation. Within minutes, the human delegation had finished their preparations. They moved toward the chamber's exit in formation, their departure as coordinated as their announcement. Jake paused at the doorway and looked back at the assembled delegates. "Thank you again for everything," he said. "We truly have learned all we need to know." The humans left the chamber, their footsteps echoing in the stunned silence they left behind. For the first time in Council history, a member species had simply walked away. 3 months had passed since the humans walked out of the Galactic Council chamber, and the silence from human space was growing louder every day. Council leader Thizizka coiled around her private office platform, studying the reports that arrived each morning with increasing concern. The Serpentine leader had ruled the council for 47 years, but nothing in her experience had prepared her for this situation. The first sign of trouble came from the trade networks. The Vorthek Commerce Guild reported that human cargo ships had stopped arriving at their scheduled ports. Not delayed, not rerouted, simply absent. The silicon-based traders had built their latest quarterly projections around human-manufactured goods, particularly the innovative electronics that Earth factories produce so efficiently. Without those shipments, several major trade routes were operating at a loss. "They are not answering our communication requests," reported Trade Coordinator Vex Prime, his mechanical voice carrying notes of frustration that his species rarely displayed. "We have sent 17 separate messages to human trade authorities. The messages are received but not acknowledged." Lysiska's scales shifted to a thoughtful purple. "What about the independent human traders? Surely some of them would be willing to maintain their profitable relationships." "That is the concerning part," Vex Prime continued. "The independent traders are also withdrawing. They complete their current contracts but refuse to negotiate new ones. When pressed for reasons, they simply state they are returning home." The pattern extended far beyond commerce. Dr. Chen Wei of the Nexari Collective had been working closely with human scientists on several breakthrough research projects. The quantum crystallization work that Dr. Grant had mentioned was only one of dozens of collaborative efforts. All of them had been abandoned simultaneously, with human researchers providing complete data sets before departing. "It makes no sense," Chen Wei told the council's emergency session. Her crystalline form flickered with confused patterns of light. "The humans were making remarkable progress. Some of their insights were years ahead of our own research. Why would they abandon work that could benefit their entire species?" Military advisor Zex Primal of the warrior caste had been asking similar questions. The massive humanoid warrior stood before the council, his forearms gesturing as he spoke. "Human colonies throughout the Outer Rim have gone silent. Not destroyed, not conquered, simply non-communicative. Our standard patrol ships report that the colonies appear to be functioning normally, but they refuse all contact." The situation was unprecedented. In the 3,000-year history of the Galactic Council, no member species had ever simply vanished from galactic society. Wars had been fought, territories had been lost, civilizations had fallen to plague or disaster, but this was different. Humanity was choosing isolation? Send a reconnaissance mission, Lysiska decided. "If the humans will not communicate, we will observe them directly." Zex Primal nodded his approval. "I will dispatch a full survey squadron. Class 7 vessels with complete sensor arrays. We will determine what the humans are planning." The squadron departed 3 days later, led by Captain Vexthorn of the Hegemony's 4th Fleet. The vessels were equipped with the most advanced sensors available to Council forces, capable of detecting energy signatures from several star systems. Away, the mission should have been routine surveillance, the kind of operation that Council forces performed regularly to monitor potential threats. The squadron returned ahead of schedule, and Captain Vexthorn's report troubled everyone who heard it. The Serpentine officer coiled nervously around the briefing platform as he addressed the Council's senior military staff. "We approached the human border systems using standard stealth protocols," he began. "Our sensors detected the expected human settlements and defensive installations. However, when we attempted to enter human space for detailed observation, we were immediately detected and contacted." Zex Primal's scarred face showed surprise. "Detected how?" "Council stealth technology is generations ahead of human capabilities." "That is what we believed," Vexthorn replied. "But they knew we were coming before we cleared the hyperjump threshold. A human patrol vessel was waiting for us. They politely requested that we identify ourselves and state our business." The briefing room fell silent. Council stealth technology was based on Nexari crystal matrices that bent sensor waves around spacecraft. The technology was closely guarded and had never been defeated by any known countermeasures. "What did you tell them?" Lysiska asked. We identified ourselves as a Council reconnaissance patrol conducting routine border surveillance. The human commander, a Captain Sarah Davis, thanked us for our identification and politely informed us that human space was now restricted to authorized personnel only. Zex Premel's forearms crossed in a gesture of confusion. Did they threaten you? Display weapons? Show any signs of hostility? None whatsoever, Vex Thorn continued. Captain Davis was professional and courteous. She explained that humanity was no longer participating in galactic affairs and requested that we respect their privacy. She offered to escort us to the border to ensure we did not accidentally violate their territorial boundaries. The implications were staggering. Humanity had detected Council stealth technology, intercepted a reconnaissance squadron, and politely escorted them away without showing any signs of aggression or fear. This was not the behavior of a species that was hiding in fear or preparing for war. Did you observe anything unusual about their technology? Chun-Wei asked from her position near the Council chamber's crystal matrices. Vex Thorn's expression grew more troubled. The human patrol vessel was unlike anything in our intelligence files. The design was familiar, but the energy signatures were completely different. Our sensors detected power outputs that should not have been possible with human technology. More reports arrived daily, each one adding to the growing puzzle. Human research stations that had been struggling with basic problems 3 months ago were now showing energy patterns that suggested major technological breakthroughs. Trade ships that had been using standard human engines were now moving at speeds that rivaled Council vessels. Intelligence analyst Crane of the Vorthok submitted a report that sent alarm through the Council's inner circle. The mechanical being had been reviewing 3 years of human diplomatic communications, looking for clues about their withdrawal. The pattern is clear once you know what to look for, Crane reported. Human diplomatic personnel were not just participating in Council activities. They were systematically gathering information about every aspect of galactic civilization. The analyst displayed a series of communication logs, highlighting specific requests and questions that human diplomats had made over the years. Individually, each request seemed innocent, even helpful. Ambassador Morrison asking about historical conflicts to better understand galactic politics. Dr. Grant inquiring about the theoretical limits of various technologies. Captain Foster requesting information about defensive capabilities to better coordinate with Council forces. When viewed collectively, these requests form a comprehensive intelligence-gathering operation, Crane continued. The humans were not just learning about galactic society. They were studying it, analyzing it, preparing for something. The realization hit the Council like a physical blow. Humanity had not withdrawn from galactic society because they were afraid or unprepared. They had withdrawn because they were ready. The 3 years of eager participation, of grateful acceptance of Council guidance, had been a carefully orchestrated intelligence operation. But ready for what? Thais Ka asked, though she was beginning to suspect the answer. Dr. Chun-Wei provided the most disturbing piece of the puzzle. Her research team had been reviewing the scientific data that human researchers had left behind. The quantum crystallization project was just one example, but it was revealing. The humans did not just participate in our research, she reported. They guided it. The breakthrough insights that we credited to collaboration were actually human innovations. They were not learning from us. They were teaching us while studying how we learned. The implications were staggering. For 3 years, humanity had been observing galactic civilization from the inside, learning its strengths and weaknesses, understanding its power structures and dependencies. They had been polite students and eager partners, but they had also been conducting the most comprehensive intelligence operation in galactic history. What do we do now? Asked Trade Coordinator Vex Prime. The economic disruption is already causing problems across multiple sectors. If this continues, we will face serious instability. Thais' scales shifted to the deep blue of serious contemplation. The Council had dealt with rebellious species before, but never anything like this. Humanity had not attacked anyone, had not made any demands, had not even issued any complaints. They had simply walked away, taking their contributions to Galactic society with them. We wait, she decided. We monitor the situation and prepare for whatever comes next. And we hope that humanity's withdrawal is temporary. But even as she spoke, Ziska knew that hope was probably futile. The humans had planned this too carefully, executed it too precisely. Whatever they were preparing for. 6 months had passed since humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, and the intercepted communication that arrived at Council headquarters changed everything. Intelligence Officer Cranine had been monitoring subspace transmissions from the direction of human space when he detected something that made his mechanical systems run full diagnostic cycles to confirm what he was seeing. The transmission was not meant for the Council. It was an internal human communication, probably bounced off a relay station near the border. The encryption was sophisticated but not impenetrable to Council code-breaking systems. What the message contained, however, was more shocking than anyone could have imagined. Council leader Ziska read the decoded transmission 3 times before calling an emergency session. Her scales had shifted to the deep red of extreme agitation as she coiled around the central podium. The assembled delegates could sense her distress before she even began speaking. "Fellow council members," she began, her voice carrying unusual strain, "we have intercepted a human communication that reveals the true nature of their withdrawal from our organization. What we are about to learn will fundamentally change our understanding of galactic politics." The chamber fell silent. Representatives from dozens of species focused their attention on the council leader, sensing that something monumentally important was about to be revealed. The humans did not withdraw from the council because they were unprepared for galactic society, Ziska continued. They withdrew because they discovered what the council really is. She activated the holographic display system, showing the decoded transmission. The message was from Intelligence Officer Alex Parker of the Terran Federation, reporting to the Human Leadership Council on Earth. The contents were devastating. According to human intelligence analysis, the Galactic Council is not the benevolent organization we have claimed to be. The humans have documented evidence that we deliberately suppress the technological and political development of younger species. They have proof that we maintain our power through careful manipulation and control. Murmurs of confusion and denial rippled through the chamber. The Vorthek delegation's mechanical voices rose in protest. The Nexari flickered with agitated light. Patterns, even the usually composed Zealothi, began clicking frantically among themselves. The humans discovered our development protocols, Ziska continued, her voice growing heavier with each word. They know that we provide just enough technology to keep member species useful, but never enough to make them independent. They have documentation of our economic manipulation, our political interference, our systematic suppression of innovation. Dr. Chun Wei of the Nexari Collective stood from her position, her crystalline form radiating shock. "This is impossible. The Council has always promoted cooperation and mutual advancement. We have shared our knowledge freely with all member species." "Have we?" Ziska asked. The humans analyzed 3 years of technological transfers. They documented every innovation we shared, every breakthrough we withheld, every development we redirected. According to their analysis, we have been deliberately keeping member species dependent on Council resources and guidance. The evidence was overwhelming. The intercepted communication included detailed analysis of Council policies going back centuries. The humans had not just studied the present state of galactic civilization. They had researched its history, tracing patterns of control and manipulation that stretched across millennia. The humans discovered the Corvani suppression, Ziska announced, her scales shifting to the darkest red possible. They know about the peripheral quarantine zones. They have documentation of 17 different species that we have kept isolated and underdeveloped. The chamber erupted in chaos. The Corvani have been quarantined for 800 years, officially because they were too aggressive and primitive for galactic society. The truth was that they had developed advanced military technology that threatened Council control. Rather than allow them to join as equals, the Council had isolated them and spread propaganda about their supposed primitiveness, intelligence. Officer Cranine provided additional details that made the situation even worse. The humans have been in contact with the quarantined species. Our monitoring stations detected unusual transmissions in the Corvani system 3 months ago. We initially dismissed them as natural phenomena, but they were actually human communication attempts. Military advisor Zex Primal stood, his massive form towering over the other delegates. What did the humans tell the Corvani? According to the intercepted communications, they told them the truth. They explained that the Council has been deliberately suppressing their development. They offered the Corvani a choice between continued isolation or joining a new alliance of free species. The implications were staggering. The humans had not just withdrawn from the Council. They were actively working to undermine it by revealing its true nature to the species it controlled. The carefully maintained power structure that had governed galactic civilization for thousands of years was under direct assault. There is more, Thazizka continued. The humans have also contacted the Meraki Commonwealth, the Theta Sector Collective, and the Rimworld Alliance. All of the species that we have kept on the periphery of galactic society are now being offered full technological and political cooperation by humanity. Dr. Chenwei's crystalline form was flickering with rapid color changes indicating extreme distress, but this will destroy the stability we have maintained for millennia. Without proper guidance, these species could develop dangerous technologies. They could threaten the peace we have worked so hard to preserve. Peace for whom? The question came from an unexpected source. Trade Coordinator Vex Prime of the Vorthek had spoken, his mechanical voice carrying unusual emotion. The humans provided detailed economic analysis of Council trade policies. According to their calculations, the Vorthek Commerce Guild has been operating as a distribution system for Council resources rather than an independent trading network. The revelation hit the chamber like a physical blow. The Vorthek had believed they were successful independent traders, but the humans had shown them that they were actually middlemen in a Council-controlled economic system. Their profits were allowed to exist only because they served Council interests. Our mining operations follow the same pattern, added the Zealothi delegate, his forearms moving in agitated patterns. The humans documented how our expansion into the Outer Rim was directed by Council resource requirements rather than collective decisions. We have been mining slaves disguised as independent operators. Species after species began to realize that their supposed independence was actually carefully managed dependence. The humans had not just gathered intelligence about Council operations. They had analyzed the entire galactic power structure and revealed it for what it truly was. What are the humans planning to do with this information? Asked Captain Vexthorn, who had led the failed reconnaissance mission to human space. Thizizka's scales shifted to an almost black shade of red. According to the intercepted communications, they are building what they call the Free Species Alliance. Every species that has been suppressed, controlled, or exploited by the Council is being offered membership in a new organization based on genuine equality and cooperation. The chamber fell silent as the full scope of humanity's plan became clear. They had not withdrawn from galactic society to hide or to prepare for war. They had withdrawn to build a better version of galactic society, one that operated without the Council's control mechanisms. The humans have been developing new technologies. Based on freely shared knowledge from their new allies, Thizizka continued. The Corvani have provided advanced military designs. The Meraki have shared their biotechnology. The Theta Collective has contributed their energy manipulation techniques. Humanity is coordinating the greatest technological exchange in galactic history. Military advisor Zex Primal's scarred face showed growing alarm. What are their military capabilities? Are they preparing to attack Council territory? That is the most disturbing part, Thizizka replied. The humans appear to have no interest in attacking us. They are simply making us irrelevant. Every species that joins their alliance becomes independent of Council resources. Every world that accepts their technology stops needing Council protection. They are not destroying our power structure. They are replacing it. The intercepted communications revealed the scope of human ambition. They were not trying to reform the Council or negotiate better terms. They were creating an entirely new galactic order based on principles that made the Council's control mechanisms obsolete. "We face a choice," Izeska announced to the assembled delegates. "We can attempt to maintain our traditional power structure in a galaxy that no longer needs us, or we can acknowledge that the humans have exposed fundamental flaws in our system." The silence that followed was the sound of an empire realizing that its time was ending. The Galactic Council had ruled through control and manipulation for thousands of years, but humanity had shown the galaxy that there was another way. The question now was whether the Council would adapt or simply fade into irrelevance. The humans had not just withdrawn from galactic society. 1 year after humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, the economic collapse was no longer something that could be hidden or explained away. Council leader Izeska studied the emergency reports that arrived daily from member worlds, each one painting a picture of growing instability and desperation. The Serpentine leader had called another emergency session, but this time the mood in the chamber was very different from their usual confident discussions. Trade Coordinator Vex Prime delivered his report with mechanical precision, but even his artificial voice carried notes of concern. Commerce Guild revenues have declined by 68% over the past quarter. Without human manufactured goods and the innovations they provided, our trade networks are operating at severe losses. The numbers were devastating. Humanity had not just been participants in the galactic economy. They had been essential to its function. Their efficient manufacturing, innovative designs, and reliable delivery schedules had become the foundation that other species built their own economic plans around. Without human contributions, the entire system was collapsing. "The situation is worse than simple economic decline," Vex Prime continued. "Our analysis indicates that human participation was masking fundamental inefficiencies in Council economic policies. Without their contributions, we are discovering that many of our member species have been operating at artificial profit levels." Dr. Chun Wei of the Nexari Collective provided scientific confirmation of what everyone was beginning to suspect. "Our research programs have stalled completely without human collaboration. The quantum crystallization project that we thought was a joint effort was actually driven entirely by human insights. Our own contributions were minimal." The realization was humbling and terrifying at the same time. For 3 years, the Council had believed they were generously sharing knowledge with humanity while gradually bringing them up to galactic standards. The truth was that humanity had been carrying much of the innovative burden while allowing other species to take credit for breakthroughs they could not have achieved alone. "We are receiving requests for assistance from 17 member worlds," reported Emergency Coordinator Zeth Prime. "They are experiencing critical shortages of essential technologies that were previously supplied through human trade networks. Several colonies are requesting emergency evacuation due to failing life support systems that depended on human-manufactured components." The crisis was spreading beyond economics into basic survival. Human engineers had been quietly solving problems across the galaxy, their efficient solutions becoming so integrated into daily life that other species had forgotten how to function without them. Now those species were facing the reality of their dependence. Military advisor Zex Primal delivered the most disturbing report of all. "Our intelligence networks report that human ships have been observed near quarantine zones throughout the galaxy. The species we have kept isolated are showing signs of rapid technological advancement." The massive warrior's forearms gestured toward a holographic display showing sensor readings from across known space. Red indicators marked locations where unusual energy signatures had been detected, patterns that suggested major technological developments in areas that should have been primitive backwaters. "The Corvani system is now generating power outputs that rival our most advanced worlds," Zex Primal continued. The Meraki Commonwealth has constructed what appears to be a shipyard capable of producing vessels with previously unknown design specifications. The Theta Sector Collective has deployed communication networks that operate on principles our scientists do not understand. Council leader Thizizka's scales had shifted to a color that indicated deep contemplation mixed with growing fear. What? Are our patrol fleets reporting from these areas? That is the problem, Zex Primal replied. Our patrols are being turned away, not by force but by polite request that we respect the sovereignty of these developing civilizations. The requests are backed by the presence of ships that our sensors cannot properly identify. The implications were clear. Humanity was not just sharing technology with the quarantined species. They were providing protection, ensuring that the Council could not interfere with their development. The carefully maintained isolation that had kept these species under control for centuries was being systematically dismantled. Intelligence Officer Cranine provided additional details that made the situation even more alarming. We have intercepted communications indicating that the Free Species Alliance now includes 43 different civilizations. Many of these are species we have never heard of before. The revelation hit the chamber like a physical blow. The Council believed they had cataloged all significant civilizations in the galaxy. The idea that there were dozens of species they knew nothing about suggested that their understanding of galactic civilization was far more limited than they had imagined. How is this possible? Demanded Dr. Chunwei. Our exploration fleets have mapped every star system within 50,000 light years. Where could these species have been hiding? They were not hiding, Cranine replied. They were being hidden. The humans have revealed that many species developed advanced spaceflight capabilities, but chose to remain isolated rather than make contact with the Council. They observed our treatment of member species and decided that independence was preferable to membership. The truth was devastating. The Galactic Council had not been the center of galactic civilization. They had been one power structure among many, ruling over a fraction of the total number of intelligent species in the galaxy. Dozens of civilizations had developed advanced technology while deliberately avoiding contact with the Council. Why? Are they revealing themselves now? Asked Trade Coordinator Vex Prime. Because humanity has offered them something we never did, Thizizka answered, her voice heavy with the weight of realization. True cooperation without domination. The humans are building an alliance based on equality rather than control. Emergency. Reports continued to arrive throughout the session, each one documenting another aspect of the growing crisis. Member species were requesting emergency aid that the Council could not provide. Trade routes were collapsing due to lack of essential human-manufactured components. Research projects were failing without human innovation to drive them forward. We need to establish communication with the human leadership, declared Dr. Chunwei. Surely they understand that this crisis affects innocent civilians across the galaxy. They cannot simply abandon species that have become dependent on their contributions. Military advisor Zex Primal's expression showed doubt. Our attempts to establish communication have been unsuccessful. The humans respond to our messages with polite acknowledgments but no substantive dialogue. They appear to have no interest in negotiating with us. Because they do not need to negotiate, Thizizka realized. They have already built an alternative to our entire system. From their perspective, we are no longer relevant to galactic affairs. The chamber fell silent as the full scope of their situation became clear. The Galactic Council had spent thousands of years building a civilization that depended entirely on their control and guidance. Now humanity had demonstrated that such control was unnecessary. That species could cooperate and advance through voluntary association rather than managed dependence. What are our options? Asked Emergency Coordinator Prime.Thizizka's scales shifted through several colors as she considered their limited choices. We can attempt to maintain our traditional authority over the species that remain loyal to the Council. We can try to adapt our policies to compete with the human alliance. Or we can acknowledge that our system has been superseded and request to join their new organization. The idea of the Galactic Council requesting membership in an organization created by the species they had once considered primitive newcomers was almost unthinkable. But the alternative was continuing to preside over a collapsing civilization, while watching the rest of the galaxy prosper under human leadership. The humans have sent us a message, Lysiska announced, activating a new holographic display. It arrived this morning through standard diplomatic channels. The message was brief and characteristically human in its directness. General Kate Mitchell of the Terran Space Force had sent an official communication to the Council, offering humanitarian assistance to any member species that required help dealing with the economic transition. The Free Species Alliance stands ready to provide emergency aid and technological support to any civilization experiencing difficulties due to recent changes in galactic politics, the message stated. We bear no ill will toward the former Galactic Council or its member species. Our goal is to ensure that all intelligent life has the opportunity to thrive in freedom and dignity. The offer was generous, practical, and utterly humiliating. Humanity was offering to solve the problems that the Council's own policies had created. They were treating the former galactic superpower as just another species in need of assistance. They are not trying to conquer us, Lysiska realized. They are trying to save us from ourselves. The Galactic Council faced a choice that would define the future of their civilization. They could continue trying to maintain control over a shrinking sphere of influence. 18 months after humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, Director Susan Clark stood in the command center of Earth's orbital headquarters and watched the final transformation of galactic civilization unfold across the holographic displays. The woman who had once served as a junior diplomatic aide was now overseeing the largest peaceful revolution in recorded history. Around her, representatives from over 90 different species worked together in the kind of cooperative harmony that the old Council had claimed to promote but never actually achieved. The Free Species Alliance had grown beyond anyone's original projections. What began as humanity's attempt to build better relationships with suppressed species had evolved into a complete restructuring of galactic society. The principles were simple but revolutionary: voluntary cooperation instead of managed dependence, shared knowledge instead of controlled information, and genuine equality instead of hierarchical dominance. Captain Joe Martinez, who had been serving as Earth's military liaison during the early days of Council membership, now coordinated the Alliance's humanitarian efforts. His current mission was both complex and symbolically important. The former Galactic Council had finally requested assistance, and humanity was responding with the same generous spirit they had shown to every other species that asked for help. The Nexari Collective has agreed to join the Alliance, Martinez reported to Clark during their morning briefing. Dr. Chun-Wei will serve as their primary representative. She says that working with truly shared technology has advanced their research by decades in just a few months. The transformation of individual species had been remarkable to witness. The Nexari, who had been among the most technically advanced members of the old Council, discovered that their crystalline technology could achieve breakthrough improvements when combined with innovations from other Alliance members. Without the Council's restrictions on knowledge sharing, the Nexari were exploring possibilities they had never imagined. What about the Vorthek Commerce Guild? Clark asked. They are restructuring their entire operation, Martinez replied. Instead of serving as middlemen for Council-controlled trade, they are becoming genuine facilitators of interspecies commerce. Trade Coordinator Vex Prime says their profits have increased by over 200% since they started operating under Alliance principles. The economic transformation had been swift and decisive. Without artificial restrictions and controlled dependencies, trade between species was flourishing. The Vorthak had discovered that genuine free trade was far more profitable than the managed commerce they had operated under Council oversight. Their mechanical precision, combined with alliance-wide cooperation, was creating prosperity that benefited everyone involved. Commander Beth Harris led one of the Alliance's most important diplomatic missions. She was currently on Nexari Prime, helping the crystalline species adapt to their new role in galactic society. The Nexari had been among the most privileged members of the Old Council, and adjusting to true equality was proving challenging for some of their leadership. "We understand intellectually that the Alliance system is superior," Dr. Chun Wei had explained during Harris's visit. "But emotionally, it is difficult to accept that our previous advantages were artificial. We thought we had earned our position through superior technology and wisdom." Harris had responded with the patience that characterized all Alliance diplomatic efforts. "Your technology is genuinely advanced and your wisdom is real. The difference is that now you can share those gifts freely instead of using them to maintain control over others. Your contributions are more valuable when they lift everyone up rather than keeping others down." The conversation represented the kind of honest dialogue that had become standard throughout Alliance territory. Species were learning to confront uncomfortable truths about their past behavior while focusing on building better relationships for the future. The process was not always easy, but it was producing remarkable results. The most dramatic transformation was happening in the former quarantine zones. The Kovani, who had been isolated for 8 centuries because of their supposed aggression, were proving to be natural partners in the Alliance's peacekeeping efforts. Their military technology, combined with human strategic thinking and alliance-wide cooperation, was creating security systems that protected everyone without threatening anyone. General Kate Mitchell had been working directly with Corvani military leaders to integrate their forces into the Alliance's defense networks. The results exceeded all expectations. The Corvani were not aggressive conquerors as the Council had claimed. They were dedicated defenders who had been forced into isolation by a galactic system that feared their independence. "The Corvani have agreed to lead our response to the Outer Rim crisis," Mitchell reported during a secure communication with Clark. 3 former Council worlds are experiencing system failures due to neglected infrastructure. The Corvani engineering corps can have repair fleets in position within 48 hours. The crisis in former Council territory had been developing for months. Without human-manufactured components and the innovations that had kept their systems running efficiently, several Council worlds were facing critical infrastructure failures. The Alliance was providing emergency assistance, but the scope of the problem revealed how dependent the old system had been on suppressed species. Contributions. Council leader Thizizka had finally accepted the Alliance's offer of membership, though the process was proving difficult for the former Galactic Authority. The Serpentine leader was struggling to adapt from a position of command to one of cooperation among equals. During her first Alliance Assembly meeting, she had attempted to call for order in the traditional Council manner, only to be gently reminded that Alliance decisions were made through consensus rather than hierarchical decree. "The former Council species are learning, but the adjustment is challenging," observed Captain Ryan Foster, who was serving as a liaison during the integration process. "They are accustomed to thinking in terms of superior and inferior species. The concept of true equality is foreign to their experience." The integration challenges were being handled with the same patient approach that characterized all Alliance activities. Former Council species were being given time and support to adapt to new ways of thinking, while Alliance members shared their knowledge and experience freely. The goal was not to punish the old system, but to help everyone transition to something better. Dr. Lisa Grant had returned to her research with renewed enthusiasm, now working with scientists from dozens of species on projects that would have been impossible under Council restrictions. Her current work involved combining human biological knowledge with Meraki biotechnology and Nexari crystalline matrices to develop medical treatments that could help virtually any known species. "We are making discoveries every day that were impossible under the old system," Grant reported during a scientific symposium on Earth. "When knowledge is shared freely and everyone contributes equally, innovation happens at speeds that seem almost magical." The transformation was visible throughout Alliance territory. Worlds that had struggled under Council management were now thriving. Species that had been suppressed were contributing innovations that benefited everyone. The quarantine zones had become centers of technological advancement and cultural exchange. Perhaps most importantly, the galaxy was at peace in a way it had never been before. Without the artificial scarcities and managed conflicts that the Council had used to maintain control, species were finding that cooperation was far more rewarding than competition. The Alliance's voluntary nature meant that every member was there by choice, working toward shared goals rather than serving external masters. Director Clark looked out at the holographic display showing Alliance territory, now covering most of the known galaxy. The transformation had taken less than 2 years, proving that the old Council's claims about the necessity of gradual change had been excuses for maintaining power rather than genuine concerns about stability. Status report on the remaining independent systems? She asked Martinez. 17 star systems have requested observer status with the Alliance, he replied. They want to evaluate our principles before committing to membership. Based on current trends, we expect most of them to join within the next 6 months. The galaxy was choosing freedom over control, cooperation over domination, and genuine progress over managed stagnation. Humanity had not conquered galactic civilization. They had diagnosed its problems and offered solutions that allowed everyone to thrive. The result was a galactic society that exceeded the dreams of even the most optimistic early Alliance planners. The Galactic Council no longer existed as a governing body, but its former members were finding new purpose as equal partners in a system that valued their contributions without demanding their submission. The galaxy had learned that true strength came from lifting others up rather than keeping them down, and that lesson was transforming everything.